What's a smell you're never gonna forget? The smell of a decomposing body. Draca Noir smells like 1980s high school dances and Great Expectations. Cancer. I could smell my dad's lung cancer and it was the darkest, most foul-smelling thing ever. Weed. As a former stoner, I could smell someone lighting up a J 2 miles away in their backyard while I'm on a run. It's forever ingrained in my mind. Alfalfa. The smell of home. Probably rotting animal bodies. Specifically large birds' fowl. It has this awful acidic smell that you can smell from yards away on a still day. Smell of soil after rain. The formaldehyde that was pumped into my dead daughter at the funeral. It was so pungent that I couldn't even hold her for more than a couple minutes. I am obsessed with the smell of jet-puffed marshmallows. If we walk by them in the store, I'll get closer so I can smell them. This makes me sound like some marshmallow perv. New tennis balls. That shit is like drugs. The perfume of my 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade teacher. I can't remember which grade it was. It was a wonderful calming scent. I smell it rarely nowadays when I go out. But when I do, it makes me feel like a kid again. Smile. Worked retail in a store for a while. There was a massively obese woman who obviously never washed, showered or sprayed, who'd come in about once a fortnight. You could identify the smell 5 aisles away. And it would last an hour after she'd gone. Fancy by Jessica Simpson. Attractive lady at work wore it pretty often. Some 15 years ago. Smelled like chocolate. I tried a smelling salt for the first time the other day. I had seen reaction videos and figured, there's no way they're that intense. Indeed, they are. A kinda ozony smell that wafted off old office equipment at my dad's work when I was a little kid. Mimeograph ink. Both weird and intoxicating. The cloud that covered my apartment for days after 9/11. I worked in a detox. Section 35. Many homeless coming right off the street from the courts. Man. Those smelled like decaying corpses. Also the smell of cancer. When someone is very ill, there's a very distinct scent. The smell of cinnamon rolls. The smell of Old Spice on my palm paper instantly takes me back to my dad standing behind me with my face and in his hand as we look in the mirror while he tried to get my cowlick to lay down. My roommate's rotten cilantro. I haven't recovered and it's been years. That Tupperware still smells like it too. Anal glands. Worked as a teen at PetSmart in the grooming salon and that smell was awful. Salt water. I grew up near the ocean but now I live in a landlocked state. I work in care and the smell of undigested food that has passed through the body is the worst thing I've ever smelt. I participated in some smell study and how it relates to memory for some college assignment. I was kind of skeptical it would do anything, but some of the smells instantly brought back memories I forgot about. It was extremely weird. The most memorable was some smell that completely reminded me of my pediatrics office as a kid. Really weird how impactful smell is. The linen closet from the house I grew up in. PT that had vulva cancer. Heroin. Very distinct, vinegary smell. I'm almost 2 years sober now. But after living in active addiction for roughly a decade, it's a smell I'll never forget. The smell of childbirth. Even with the pain of contractions and having my cervix, vag and anus ripped open. There was a very distinct smell. It wasn't unpleasant or pleasant. Just very noticeable. I mentioned it later and nobody that was in the room knew the smell I was talking about. I couldn't believe it. I had thought everyone would notice it. Also the smell of my newborn baby after birth. The smell was so amazing and pleasant. I did not bathe the baby for 3 days. The hospital said this would be beneficial for the baby. The smell of arcades. A few years ago I went to Galloping Ghost and smelled that smell for the first time in 20 years. It was magical. Can't wait to go back again. It's like stepping into a time machine and going back to 1995. As someone who's had moderate amounts of dental work, you never forget the smell of burning teeth. The curing epoxy resin smell is also pretty recognizable. My older brother once farted in the closet, pushed me in and closed the door. I will never forget or forgive that smell. My eyes were teary. The smell from my mouth when I don't brush. When my downstairs neighbor was decomposing for months and the whole complex 20 units had to get fumigated. The inside of my mom's handbag. It smells of leather, cigarettes, minty chewing gum and very vaguely of perfume. Whenever she asks me to fetch something out her handbag, that smell brings me back to childhood. DMT. Cocaine. I used to be a nurse. It would be bed sores for me. Especially severely neglected ones. Think putrefaction but on a person that is still alive. I have had to slough ones so large I could fit my fist in them. Crude sulfate turpentine. The smell coming from the necrotizing fasciitis a guy had from shooting heroin into his dick veins. The visuals and smell are burned into my consciousness. A newborn baby's head. Rotten meat. It's so foul. Shit of a dog with parvo. Can't forget that distinct metallic smell and the suffering of my late dog when he contracted the virus. Durian fruit. Traumatizing. Warm lilac and street in Paris 2016. The best smell ever. Burnt skin. I witnessed a tragic accident when I was 16 that physically scarred me, turned all my hair gray. And I will never in my years forget the smell of burning human skin. Walking into a hog farm after the ventilation failed overnight to 20 dead sows. There were alarms in place to notify people who could get there, but they also failed. It was horrible. Lilacs. My mother's favorite. And when we moved to a new place, there were lilacs in back, and when I smelled them they became my favorite too. You don't see them too much here. But I remember. Burning flesh. I was in South Africa during the riots. The smell of human flesh and running away from people burning humans alive will forever be in my mind. I couldn't sleep for days or eat food. The smell of rotting flesh in New Orleans just after Katrina. The smell of dog and fire. Even after a bath or shower I still smell like dog and or campfire. The smells stick. The E.T. ride at Universal Studios in Florida. When you wait in line during the forest, it has such a unique smell. Molokhia. This is one of the most popular dishes in my home country, Egypt. The smell is very distinctive and always makes me drool. Croissant Bakery at Pike Place Market in Seattle. Lab Pania. The smell when you enter a Toys R Us store. They all had the same smell. Not sure what it was.